Okay, so good evening and welcome to the AVIAtest webinar, our weekly rendezvous. Hopefully you can hear me now. We seem to have a small technical issue when we started, but it seems to have been resolved by now. So, once again welcome and thank you for watching. We are very thankful to all our viewers from across the globe, and also to all the encouragements we receive both on the chat and by email regularly. Also, thank you to all the people who submitted questions. We still just received 2 at the moment. We are more and more every week, which is very encouraging for us, and which was part of our decision to make this a long-term fixture for everybody. Okay, so I proposed to talk to you about flying VFR abroad today. Now, of course, I appreciate fully that abroad is a different notion for everyone, but okay, the idea more than flying abroad is flying long-distance VFR flights. Of course, in Europe, depending on the country where you are, it may mean that you go fly abroad, or maybe you stay in your country but go to the other side. Anyhow, the whole idea behind this webinar is to make sure that everybody flies safe and stays comfortable. Okay. The first subject that we will bring up today is how to prepare your flights, and for that, after the webinar, you will have a link published, maybe it's actually already published here below, but the whole point is that you will have access to a few of the resources that we will be talking about now, including a small list of to-do things that are available, that will be available, on our website later on. So let's start with the basic preparation of your flight abroad. So what does it involve? The first thing, of course, when you want to fly abroad is to find a suitable destination. All right. Well, I'm not talking about especially from a geographical or touristic point of view, but of course, when you want to fly abroad, the first thing to look for is an aerodrome which can accommodate your flight. So think about runway length, about good accessibility of ground accessibility. I mean, if you need to go out of the airport. Also, the hours of operation are important. Think about the fuel. Fuel availability is important. Land somewhere where you know you can refuel, where you know that the type of fuel you need for your aircraft is available. That is very, very important. Now, once you've decided that, the first thing I like to think that before going into the specific flight preparation, this is not a navigation means, but before going into the really navigation calculations, you might want to have a broad idea of what's going to happen. All right. So a very good tool that we have at our disposal is called the Great Circle Calculator. It's online. It's a very nice resource that's free for everybody. You don't need to have any application or anything. It's publicly available. We'll try to take a look together. Okay, I hope that this will show. Okay. So I hope you do have an image of the website in front of you. Okay. So, Great Circle Mapper actually is a website that allows you to calculate the distance and the initial heading on any great circle, which means it's the shortest distance between your departure and destination aerodrome. All right. So here for this seminar, for this webinar, I have input this data here. So I've created a random flight from Lid, England to Nuremberg, Germany. And when you do that, don't forget to check that all your settings are correct, especially the path distance, because you see here that you have plenty of choices. So make sure you select nautical miles. All right. Once you have decided which path you want to see, and you can absolutely put in more than one. You could, for example, put in a second one, like from Nuremberg to Vienna, for example. Maybe Vienna is not the best airport to go land at, but okay, let's imagine. Keep nautical miles, hit display map, and what will appear on your screen is very, very useful. Is this? You will have a map of your different legs, here from Lid to Nuremberg and from Nuremberg to Vienna, and here below you will have the distances to cover. So we see here from Lid to Nuremberg that we have a distance of 400 nautical miles, and from Nuremberg to Vienna of 234 nautical miles. See, it's not anything precise, all right? It's not anything that you want to do to calculate your definitive navigation log, but it gives you pretty much a good idea of what to expect when you actually calculate your navigation. All right. Now, after that, what I would do if I were you, I would just draw a line on my map or on my application, whatever you use, to see where your flight is going to take you, roughly. Okay? What you want to check is that you don't cross restricted or prohibited airspace, and you don't cross class alpha airspace. These things are very important because these things you will have to avoid to circumnavigate. So if you do need to do that, if you need to circumnavigate, then you can adjust your route and play a little like path north, south, east, west, etc., etc., just to make sure that you're staying in an airspace where you can actually fly. All right? So just refine your path, and like that you will actually have a good navigation plan. Once you did that, what I would do is to make a list on a separate piece of paper of all the control zones, the TMAs, the CTRs, but also the TMZ, the transponder mandatory zones, or the RMZ, the radio mandatory zones that you will be crossing. They will be useful for a little later, you will see. Also, a very good thing to do is list all the uncontrolled airfields which are more or less in the vicinity of your route. Not only that's important because in case you need to divert, you will have a quick reference to what's available around you, but also you may want to have the frequencies of these small aerodromes because, for example, if you pass next to an aerodrome where parachute jumping is in progress, you may want to contact them as well. Or if you know or if you suspect that there is activity on an uncontrolled aerodrome, give them a call on the radio. That's always a good idea because then you're kept up to date with the traffic that is around you. All right. I hear that in some places, some aerodromes don't like it too much if you do it, but that's not a good policy, according to me. Whenever you know that you're flying in the vicinity of an aerodrome, you should at least be informed about what kind of traffic is flying there. Okay. The next thing you want to do is list all the FIRs that you will be crossing. Okay, so let's take a look at the FIRs. It's a resource that you can also find for free on the internet, and it's a very, very nice tool. Eurocontrol is giving us on their website. Don't worry, I will give you all the URLs, all the addresses later. They give us a European FIR lower airspace chart, where I suppose that it is where you will be flying. Okay, I hope the image will be displayed to you. Yeah, okay, it seems to be going through. So once you're there, you can already see here pretty much what the European FIR distribution looks like. Okay, I hope the image will be clear for everybody. Okay, so you can see here a very good map of the FIRs in Europe. You can see that for smaller countries it's pretty easy. It's kind of a copy-paste of the country borders, like here for Czech Republic or Slovakia or Belgium or Moldova. For bigger countries like Germany, you see here that there are 3 FIRs because, okay, it's much easier for people to do their job as flight information centers when the country is divided, like Germany, like France, like Spain. All right. Okay. So let's go back to our planning. List all the FIRs that you will be crossing, and then also the countries that you will be crossing. As we just saw now, it can be quite different. Okay. Now, the next thing you want to do is that, and this is very, very important, for every country that you will be crossing, consult the AIP. I know it's not very easy to read, I know they're not the most user-friendly documents, but still I think that it's always, it's not only a good idea, but it's what will make your flying safe, because you will rely on official, up-to-date information. Okay? So, one more tool online that is very, very interesting is the one that's provided to us once more by Eurocontrol, and that's called EAD. EAD is a database of AIPs, so it's basically a place where all the AIPs of Europe are stored. If you go there, you will need to create an account. Once you create your account, you hit login, and it should give you access in a matter of seconds, hopefully, to a list of AIPs, except the terms and conditions, of course. And if you take a look up here, you see AIP library. Alright, so let's hit that. Okay. Now, if we take a look at the AIP library, let's open and unroll this drop down. You can see here all the countries that have an AIP in the Eurocontrol database. It is very good, very extensive, and what's more interesting than that actually is that there are some countries like Germany or Switzerland which do not give you free access to their AIP on their own website, on the website of their ANSP. Which means that if you want to access the German AIP online on the German ANSP website, which is called VFR, you would have to pay a fee. Not good. Well, good news is that if you come here to Eurocontrol, you will have access for free to these AIPs, all of them. And let's take a very quick look at what we can find. Yeah, you have the AIP, the amendments, and even the charts. Let's take a look at the onward charts of Germany. You will see that it's quite extensive. Yeah, you can easily have access to all the charts and all the data that you will need as a pilot. Okay? This is really, really a gold mine of information. Please don't refrain from going there. It's extremely, extremely interesting. All right. Okay. So once you've been there, take a look at Gen 1.7. This will be detailed in the little handout that we will put on the website. Gen 1.7 is the chapter of the AIP in any AIP in the world where you will find the differences between the local regulation and the ICAO regulations. It's very important because you were taught how to fly in your country. You were hopefully taught what ICAO says about flying. Well, I have news for you. If you go in another country, you may have to adapt your flying because there are rules that are not exactly the same everywhere. Okay. Once you are in the AIP, remember in the previous, a few minutes ago, I told you make a list of airspaces and FIRs that you will cross. Okay, well, go into the en route section, en route 2.1, and there you will find all the units that are responsible for providing control or flight information about all these airspaces. Write down the frequencies on a sheet of paper for all the ATS units and for all also either control or flight information. Don't forget that the languages in which the services are provided are also written there. Especially for uncontrolled sectors or uncontrolled aerodromes, English is not always in use at all uncontrolled airports. So make sure that when you look at a frequency, on a chart or in an AIP, make sure that you also look at the languages that are in use. That's very, very important. Once you have that list, take it with you, put it in your flight bag, and maybe that's a nice addition for your knee pad in flight, so that you have all the frequencies listed. Another thing that you want to take is the telephone numbers of the AROs, the briefing offices, of all the FIRs that you're crossing, and save them in the memory of your phone, or save them on a paper somewhere. You'll see a little bit later that it's very, very interesting to have that. Take a look at all the aerodromes around your route that you may use in case of diversion. So it means that make a small list, and then you can look in the AIP or in your chart or in your application at all the data of these aerodromes. Alright. Take all the charts with you, of course, all the charts of your aerodrome of departure, destination, and alternates. Write down the frequencies, the languages, and once again. And also, what's important is that if you fly to an airport where you've never been, take a look in the AIP if an FBO or a handling company is available, or sometimes it's even mandatory to use a handler at some airports. Once you've seen that, and if they tell you, okay, you have to use a handler and you have to tell us in the flight plan which handler you're using, it means that you have to look in the AIP which handling companies are present on the aerodrome, and then go on the internet, look for that company and look what are their opening times, if they have any fees. Most probably they will, and make an arrangement with the handler. Alright, now to a more official part of the preparation. There may be a few formalities involved with your flight. Sorry. And here I'm talking specifically if you're flying to a country which is outside the European Union, for example, the United Kingdom, or outside the Schengen area. That's also possible. And make sure to comply with the immigration and customs regulation. For example, if you're flying from Italy to Serbia, there may be immigration procedures, there may be customs regulations, the taxing of fuel, aircraft entry or exit. So make sure to look up all these things. All right? Okay. All right. Make sure all your personal paperwork is in order and valid, that you carry an ID card or a passport, your airport badge if you need, the medical certificate, the license, that your ratings are valid, that your currency requirements are in order. For example, if you carry passengers as a private pilot, you need to check that you have the required number of landings, alright? In order I know that I've been told that carrying a logbook is under discussion. I mean, there are discussions whether it's mandatory or not. I would anyway take it with me, because if you need to prove how many landings you have in the past so many days, it's a good way to prove it, alright? Make sure you have your radiotelephony privilege certificate, alright? And put all of that in your flight bag already. Make sure you don't forget anything. Keeping your license in the shirt pocket, like this, is always a good idea, because it's easy at hand if you need to show it to somebody who comes on the apron to inspect you before departure or after landing. It's always a good idea to have a shirt with a pocket and then put your license in it. Alright. Next thing, prepare your navigation as you have been taught. I'm not here to teach you how to navigate, but you've been taught that before. If you use a computer or a tablet to do that, or a phone, whatever, make sure you have a backup, please. Make sure you have a battery on it. I know that some CAAs will tell you that carrying a power bank is not a sufficient backup. Right? It's always good to have paper backups, charts, navigation logs, fuel calculations, mass and balance, all that you need to have, okay? For the mass and balance, by the way, don't forget to check the actual figures of the empty weight of the airplane on the certificate of airworthiness. Review the aircraft performance, etc. That is all the navigation things you've learned with your instructor. Okay. Take a pre-flight briefing. A pre-flight briefing is always a good idea. A pre-flight briefing should be done with an official source, like an ANSP, an official meteorological office. You will find all the details of that in each AIP, Gen 3.1 Aeronautical Information Services and Gen 3.5 Meteorological Services. That's always the best source for information. If you want, you also can find all the details of the Aeronautical Information Services online. It's also offered by your control. I'll give you the address on our website later. But as you can see here, you have a comprehensive list of many countries where and the associated AIS services. All right. Okay. All right. Once you have your pre-flight briefing, gather all your documents together in a small bundle. All right. Staple them together. I don't care. Put them in a little folder. That's a good idea, because if again CAA comes and to inspect you on the apron, it looks much more professional, and it's much easier to just pull out a bundle of paper and give it to the gentleman or the lady who comes to inspect and say, okay, now I'm giving you the papers here. Now you just take a look while I do something else. All right? Okay. As for the aircraft, make sure you have all the aircraft papers, of course, certificate of registration, the airworthiness, the insurance, the radio license, etc., etc. But that's you know already from your flight training. The flight plan. Flight plan is something very important, of course. You've been told how to file a flight plan. There's nothing very difficult with it, but don't forget that if you're flying across FIR boundaries, that you must indicate the FIR boundary crossings. So it means that you have to indicate, I'll try and type something live here, I hope you're going to see it. You will have to type in field 18, something like this, EET /LKA 0122. Okay. Oh, that's a little big. Okay, let's reduce it and show it to you like this. Okay. This would go in field 18 of your flight plan. Oh, here I am moving. Oops. There, I'm back. This goes in field 18 of your flight plan. And for example, if you write this in your flight plan, that means I'm entering Prague FIR at after 1 hour and 22 minutes of flight. So 1 hour and 22 minutes into my flight, I will enter that that FIR. All right? Okay. So this can go away. Okay. Good. Again, you can take a look at the chart that I was showing earlier. I think it's still here. Yes, with all the FIRs. Here you have the codes, the 4-letter codes of each FIR. It's very easy to find that. Okay, back. All right. Once you file a flight plan, what's in sent, either you sent it by fax or by mail or live on the internet, which is a very easy tool. Give a telephone call to the relevant briefing office to make sure that the flight plan was received and accepted. Alright. Last thing before departure, before going out to the aircraft, say hello to Bobby. No, it's not the last thing to do, but Bobby is again here today to say hi. Hello, Bobby. Alright. So before you go out to the aircraft, I would like to ask you all to take a 5-minute break. Maybe step away from the people with whom you are, isolate yourself for a few minutes, and go through a quick but honest self-assessment. Do you feel okay? Are you honestly fit to fly? Please don't leave in a hurry. Okay? If you have any doubt as to your own condition, if you don't feel good, if you feel pressed by something, if your passengers are pushing you to depart, it's not a good sign, okay? Take a deep breath, make sure you are okay. If you don't feel okay 100%, postpone, wait. Call somebody, ask a friend. If you see an instructor in your school, just go talk for 5 minutes. Just maybe talk with anybody, okay? It may just be the one thing that will raise your doubts and let you go fly with a clear mind, okay? Reach out to someone knowledgeable. That's very important. Don't go fly if you don't feel 100% okay, alright? So if you do feel 100% okay, gather your passengers, make sure they have their ID, and explain that you're ready to go. Make sure that nobody needs to go to the bathroom. Explain the airport security measures, if they need to go through a metal detector to any form of immigration control. Hand out the high-vis jackets, the headsets, the sickness motion baggies if you're concerned with that. And then happily walk to the aircraft and do your thing. You're a pilot, you know better than I how to get that thing moving. After departure, if you depart from a non-controlled aerodrome, if there are no air traffic controllers where you're flying, don't forget to activate your flight plan. Call Flight Information Service, and that way your flight plan will be activated and somebody will be watching out for you. In the same way, immediately after engine shutdown, after you land, don't forget to close your flight plan by telephone with the local briefing office. Check with whom and within what time frame you have to do it. It may vary depending on the country. I have personal experience that normally you have half an hour after landing to do that. But I have personal experience that in Slovakia, for example, you have 10 minutes after the last radio contact with Flight Information Services to close your flight plan. Otherwise, they send in the search and rescue. So make sure by looking, you remember, I was telling you a little earlier, go check Gen 1.7, the differences between the local regulations and ICAO. Well, that's exactly why. Because there may be things like this, and you don't want to be caught by surprise and have search and rescue sent for you while you're perfectly okay. And it's also the reason why it's very handy to have the briefing office telephone numbers in your telephone, because then you just switch on your phone after landing and the telephone number is right there at hand. Alright? Okay, so that sums up about everything you have to do, and we'll be taking a look at the questions from the users and from all of you now. Okay, welcome back. We're now going to take a look at all the questions that we have received. We'll take a look at them chronologically, which means that we will start with a question from Belgium. Philip wrote us a few days ago asking us this question. European airspace is often complex. Philip, I have to say I agree with you. It is densely controlled and segmented in various layers of altitude. What a beautiful phrase. It is indeed the case, and it is because it is small and we have to have room for everybody, I'm afraid. So yes, it is true that the European airspace is very, very segmented. What can be done to ensure planned and filed VFR routes on international cross-country flights without the need to circumnavigate busy airspaces, change altitude, etc.? Are there any services available that allow smooth VFR airspace transitioning? Well, yes, there is. It's very, very easy, and that's carried out by talking to flight information. I have personal experience with it. I remember this, I think, in Switzerland. And when you approach a controlled aerodrome, or a controlled airspace rather, the easiest way to do is to tell the flight information service, okay, I'm changing frequency for, I don't know, Zurich approach on 124.380. Sometimes the gentleman or the lady doing the flight information service will tell you, okay, just hang on, do you want me to ask a clearance for you? And then that's very easy, of course, because the gentleman or the lady at the flight information will just pick up the phone, call their colleague in the control sector and say, okay, do you see this aircraft on your radar? Yeah, I see him. Okay, can he cross through your airspace? What are the conditions, etc., etc. All right. Otherwise, just tell flight information service, I'm changing frequency to call these ones, and okay. From my experience as a controller, it is extremely rare that we would refuse a crossing clearance. Sometimes we will ask you to deviate your course a little bit, but you may plan your flight across controlled airspaces. It's perfectly okay to do that. Okay? Just remember to call ahead. Give us a few minutes head time to actually coordinate your flight through our airspace, but I don't see why you couldn't cross. So you don't need to circumnavigate, you don't need to change altitudes. Give a call with reasonable head time, 5-7 minutes beforehand to cross, and most probably that will do the trick. Alright? That's pretty easy about it. Alright, the second question came to us from Slovakia. And Pavel, which is one of our most assiduous watchers, is asking us, are there specific VFR communication features in EU countries that are specific to various countries? Well, yes, there are. And that is exactly why I would recommend you look up the AIP of every country you go fly in, and take a look at that famous Gen 1.7, because there you will see that there are a few differences. There may be a few differences. For example, in the United Kingdom, they recommend that if you fly in altitude, you actually add the word altitude before the figure. So that would do something like maintaining altitude 2,000 feet, which is a very good idea, because that would suppress the risk of miscomprehension between the preposition to and the figure to, for example. All right? So there are a few habits, a few things like that. Or should I put in the unit when announcing a Q&A? Should I say that it's hectopascals or millibars? Some countries do require it. Or some countries do require it only if the QNH is below 1000. That also can be the case. So please go and take a look at the AIP parole, and there you will find the specific regulations, including the communication part, for every country in which you go fly. Okay, next question, also from Slovakia. If there are suggested VFR routes, is it mandatory to follow them? For example, it's the case in Slovenia or in Austria. Yes, I know. Well, it's all in the name, basically. If they are suggested, it's not mandatory, it's suggested. Now, if it's suggested, on the other hand, there may be a reason why. Most probably the people who suggested these routes are the people who know the area better. And most probably if you do it, that will make sure that you stay out of trouble. May be terrain, may be airspace, etc., or places where the weather is often bad. But also what's very interesting is that if you fly a suggested route, generally these routes are numbered, and that means that in the General Aviation Meteorological Report, in the MET reports that you download in the pre-flight briefings, these routes are generally mentioned as open, marginal, or closed. So that also helps to see if your route, the route you plan, is effectively flyable in VMC, which is always a good idea. That's also a good idea of flying these suggested routes, is that you actually get a yes or no decision made for you, which is quite convenient sometimes, right? Now, don't be fooled. As with everything in aviation, if somebody or if somewhere you find written, yes, go ahead, do it, it's good, it doesn't mean that it will stay so until you get there. Be very careful with that, because it may give you a false feeling of safety, thinking that you will be able to go through with all your flights without any problem. Because you saw yes or you saw open on a MET report does not mean that it will still be the case when you get there. So please stay attentive, stay focused on what's happening outside your airplane. Alright? And then we have a question from Benoit here on the chat. Hello, Benoit. For GA pilots, would the basic subscription to the EAD suffice? Yes, absolutely. The basic subscription of the EAD gives you access to all the AIPs. As a matter of fact, I have a basic subscription. Okay. And it's perfectly sufficient. You don't need anything else to use it. It's very, very good like this. All right. Okay. So once again, thank you for attending. It was really a pleasure to do this little presentation for you. The good news is that we are putting at your disposal all the links that I talked about during this webinar. But also a small handout, a small written handout with the subjects that I've been bringing up today. It will be uploaded and available. Maybe the link is already, I don't remember, maybe we already did publish the link in the description of this webinar somewhere here. And also, it will be mentioned on the uploaded video. So once we finish the recording now, in a few hours, the whole webinar will be available to watch on our YouTube channel. Don't forget also to subscribe somewhere here. And so you will be able to rewatch all the, the whole webinar, and there you will see the link where you can download this short handout, as well find all the available, all the links that I've been talking about. All right. So now, because I've had the question, somebody asked me about this little gentleman. This little gentleman is Bobby, is our foster dog, and he's always happy to appear on screen. All right. Hello, say hello to all our audience, Bobby. Thank you for watching, and until next Sunday, fly safe if you can. Stay safe, stay healthy, and until next week, have a very nice evening. Bye-bye.